So what's the best diet? If you ask most people, they're probably gonna give you an answer that's pretty even across the board. High protein, low carb, ketogenic diets, carnivore diet. People for the most part have developed a pretty broad understanding of what they believe is healthy. But there's a problem with that question. Asking the question, what's the best diet, doesn't really answer what people really are wanting to know. Because for the most part, when people ask what's the best diet, they have a certain goal in mind, and that changes depending on who you are. Maybe you're trying to lose weight. Maybe you're trying to gain weight. Maybe you just want to feel better overall. Or maybe you just have a specific thing that you're trying to solve for, like a vitamin deficiency or something. The point is, asking what's the best diet as if there's a one answer for everyone is complete bullshit. There's no such thing as a best diet because everyone's goals is different. So for us to really kind of get to the answer that we're looking for, there's a couple of things we need to understand. First, we need to understand absolutely there is no such thing as bad food. Yes, there is food that is higher in calories, but to assume those foods are bad would be incorrect because depending on your goals, there's always room for those foods. Before we get into that, let's just understand something here. Before you ever ask anyone, what do you think is the best idea for a diet? Try to understand what your goals are first. Once you understand what your goals are, then it's a lot easier to understand what foods are gonna make sense for those goals. Now, for the most part, people ask this when they're losing weight, so let's focus on that. So let's say you're someone who's interested in losing weight. The only thing that's important when you're trying to lose weight is to be in a caloric deficit. That means you're eating less calories than your body uses, therefore being in a deficit. If you consume less calorie than your body needs, then you lose weight. It's that simple. So taking that concept, when you're thinking about foods you should eat, no food should be considered off limits. Restrictions are never gonna last. You're not gonna be able to sustain that. Unless you're like some psychopath, but sure, that doesn't even seem fun either. But you just need to understand where certain foods can be incorporated into that. Now understanding that there's no such thing as bad food, only food that has higher calories that maybe won't help you stay under. Then you'll understand much easier why certain foods become, quote, healthy. Because really, healthy foods are typically just foods that you can eat more often without it being too much calories. And foods that are considered unhealthy are typically foods that don't keep you full, that are smaller in volume, but higher in calories. Because that concept exists for every single person on the planet, you can then start to understand when it's appropriate and why you'll hear things like eat in moderation. Because eating in moderation, I think sometimes makes people have the understanding of, oh, I need to just eat this less because it is bad for me. And that I think is a poor frame of thinking. See, it's not that a food is bad for you. It's that if you're only supposed to be eating a certain amount of calories in order for you to be in a deficit, and you find yourself eating food that, or rather specific foods that often, then you're going to be acting against your goals. Because for example, if you're eating 2,000 calories a day, and this thing you love so much, let's say it's a very sweet treat, or like a huge burger, whatever it is 1,800 calories, by eating this one thing for this one meal, you're not gonna be satisfied for the whole day. And then you leave yourself only 200 calories for the rest of the day. You can see why that would be difficult. So sometimes it makes more sense when your frame of thinking is, okay, I could eat this one item that I enjoy very much for this amount of calories, and then try to find 200 calories worth of food for the rest of the day. And sure, you can do that, but that's gonna be difficult compared to saying, okay, let me instead eat this meal that's only 500 calories. That way I have more room to eat more food throughout the day. Because at the end of the day, we don't wanna feel hungry, we wanna be satisfied. And if it's going to be easier to be satisfied eating more food versus one food that you like that's not gonna keep you as full as long, you start to understand the frame of thinking that makes sense when it comes to a diet. See, I think it's bad to consider anything off limits, but instead just understanding how it fits into your goals overall. Because if you can eat this thing that you really like that's 1,000 calories and you're able to spend the rest of the day eating the rest and still staying under, and there is no reason why you shouldn't eat this food that you really like. Because once again, there's no such thing as bad food, only food that is high in calories and low in calories, and whether or not it fits into your goals. Now, some people will adopt, and I'm one of those people, in the past at least, will adopt intermittent fasting, this time restriction where you think to yourself, well, if I only can eat for a certain amount of time, then there's no way I can pass those calories. And that is technically true by physical standards, but the problem is that sometimes people think, oh, just because I haven't eaten in a long time, I am now allowed to eat a lot right now. And that technically may be true, but then when you choose foods that are high in calories, you're just eating a bunch of calories that you should have eaten over a 24-hour span inside of a 1-hour span, but then more, because you have created this ideology that the reason it's working is because of the restriction. The time restriction is not what's keeping the calories down. It's always going to be you consumed less calories than you needed. That's it. That concept is equal across the board no matter who you are. It's the law of thermodynamics. So to retract this back to the first point, if someone has an answer for what's the best diet and they give you an answer, and more so if they give you an answer without understanding your goals, then they're really just full of shit, because there is no best diet. You can eat carbs, you can have sweets, you can eat meat, you can have a soda, you can have these things that are usually typical in terms of unhealthy, but what the important thing is just making sure it makes sense within the binds of your goals, because if it doesn't, then you're going to be working against yourself. I have only learned all this through trial and error. I have tried every diet under the sun, and I have tried every single restrictive thing that you can do. I'm glad that over time I've learned that I'm allowed to eat what I want so long as I have my goals in place. Also, when you realize that you feel better eating certain foods, that's when it becomes much more clear. Like, don't get me wrong, I love eating Taco Bell, and I'll treat myself to Taco Bell every once in a while. But sometimes I realize that Taco Bell doesn't exactly make me feel super great at the end of the day. It makes me feel lazy, it makes me make my tummy hurt, whatever it is. Whereas if I opted to make my own tacos at home or whatever it is, I feel a lot better. And then suddenly you realize that maybe those healthier choices are better, not because it's better food, but because of the way it makes you feel, and it helps within my goals. It doesn't mean I'm gonna let go of Taco Bell. Still having Taco Bell at least once a week, and it's still allowing me to lose weight because I know how to eat it within my goals. And if you need help understanding these concepts better, that's what I'm here for. I'm trying to be the leader that I wish I had when I was starting, because there's a lot of noise when it comes to the fitness industry, and I'm just trying to clear up the path and make it easier for everyone. So if you'd like, you can subscribe. You don't have to. There's plenty of other creators out there who have excellent information that even I myself today consume to learn from, but maybe I can find a way to make it a little bit easier for you. So I hope you guys have a good day.